Dr. Dennis Norem from Mercy Health talking COVID-19 and the latest things related to that. Dr. Norem, good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys.
How's everything going this morning?
It's going well. I'm sitting in my backyard looking at the Catalina Mountains in Tucson.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, unless they moved those while we were sleeping, that's got to be weird.
Yeah.
What kind of heat you dealing with in Tucson?
106 today. This week it's going to be 102, 104 for highs.
Nice.
So,
Because didn't you hit like 112s last week?
yeah, we were actually on an RV trip up to the Grand Canyon and things last week, so I missed out on some of the extra heat that we had here last week.
I got to tell you, with temperatures like that, social distancing shouldn't be much of a problem for you out there.
No, you don't feel like you want to be too close to anybody else when it's that hot. And certainly on the RV trip, that was an easy thing to keep our distance. You didn't really have to be around other people much at all.
As you look around the state out in Arizona, how do you rate the mask wearing of the populace out there?
Well, I think with the recent uptick and the requirement that masks were required for all access to buildings, it seems like people were doing fairly well. Every place we went into buildings, people wore masks. Restaurants are still open, even though gyms and some other places are closed. I found that most people were complying. I think, that uptick here with the hot spots maybe has stimulated people to be a little more cautious than they had been.
Bars still open out there?
Only restaurants
Okay.
that can serve alcohol that have a bar in the restaurant. And, of course, the tables are distanced, and you only seat people that are with your group. You don't seat with too close to anybody else. The one place that we ate, there were people at the bar, and some were not wearing masks. I think that kind of goes along with drinking, unfortunately.
Right. So you drove out there. Did you notice kind of the same trend as you made your way through the center of the country?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Joe.
You drove out there to Arizona, right?
Correct.
Did you notice kind of the same thing? Everybody kind of falling in line as you drove across the country?
Yeah, we only stopped a couple different nights, Albuquerque, Wichita, and basically, yes, a couple hotels we stayed at, everybody there, all the staff members were wearing masks, and people, except when they're eating, seemed like they were compliant. So it seems like people are doing better with that.
It does appear that there is, I don't know, more inclusivity as far as this goes. More people are saying okay to it. Joe and I are still going by our standard. Hey, if we're going in someplace, we put it on. The minute we walk out, we take it off. And that seems to be holding fairly well for us.
Yes. I know some states, some people are pushing, or some of the governors are pushing for people to wear a mask even outside. I don't know. I suspect that may make some sense if people have to be in some kind of a group where they can't social distance. But our experience has been with where we went, obviously there was no need for that. We were never in any kind of a large group. National parks are, I would guess, for instance, the Grand Canyon was probably 20% of the people that would normally be there.
No, and I think not to speak for Riley, but I think we both agree too. I mean, yes, outside if you're for some reason in a group of people, probably take care of yourself. But if you're just outside, but by yourself, walking down the street or whatever, that's still fine. Just breathing normally, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Again, you're well social distance from anybody else.
I try to social distance. I've been social distancing for a long time. I don't like being around people, so we're going to be all right.
Yeah, it's something we put into play 15, 20 years ago, and it still seems to be playing out fairly well for us. A couple of pieces out talking about coronavirus vaccine. Everybody's looking forward to the chance that a vaccine could be coming our way. But a couple of pieces that I've read over the weekend point out that the coronavirus vaccine will not change the world right away as much as you think that it might.
Probably not. Again, even a good vaccine for a virus is maybe 40% effective, maybe 50%. And as we've seen over the past few years with the flu vaccines, some years we're down in the 30% range. So that would mean you'd have to vaccinate and revaccinate and probably get a couple of years down the road before you got to that percentage that would give us the herd immunity that would make things easier to deal with. I think there's hope, though, that some of these new antivirals have been working fairly well, so at least treatment is improving, and hopefully will improve even further.
Yeah, some of the numbers, nearly $6 billion has been allocated. Clinical trials are entering a crucial third phase. Operation Warp Speed getting closer to the goal of delivering 300 million doses of a COVID-19 vaccine by January. But it says when Americans line up, the vaccine you get might not be what you expect. Popular notion of a vaccine shot in the arm that prevents the disease may not apply. And as you pointed out, it's all about, if we can get 50% effectiveness, that's pretty good as a start.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that means I have to get through a couple of seasons before we really get things tamped down to a point of saying, hey, this is just a bad flu. I mean, that's ultimately our goal, but who knows how long that's going to take.
I was surprised to read, Dr. Norem, that of the more than 150 vaccines that are in the works worldwide, Operation Warp Speed has identified 14 what they call promising candidates. I didn't know that there was 150 vaccines in the works.
Yeah, I thought it was only around 100, but apparently there are obviously numerous countries, numerous companies working on the vaccine. Kind of the unknown here is that new vaccine, I think the company Moderna is working on, based on this protein analysis by using proteins that are produced by the virus. It's a totally new way of making a vaccine, and maybe that vaccine will be much more effective than the traditional way.
Vaccines are fun to talk about because it feels like that's going to be the end of it. I do feel like talking a little too much about or getting too excited about the vaccine a little bit, putting the cart before the horse before we can tamp this down first. But just one more question about the vaccine. Have you guys had any talks in the medical community about getting this out to people, the distribution? Is this going to be, by appointment only? Are we going to have, kind of the drive-up clinics that we're doing for tests now? How's that going to be dispersed?
I haven't seen much about that yet. There's been some discussion about prioritizing, and obviously it's going to be prioritized. The people are most susceptible, certainly the healthcare workers, first responders, those types of people. How that will be done is going to be an interesting exercise. Obviously, that is a public health type issue, and it should be done through a public health entity, but it's probably going to involve multiple organizations. But it's going to create, I'm sure, some controversy as to how that gets distributed. And the bigger controversy is, which country is going to get it first and how many vaccines will they get? Mm-hmm. I know that's popped up a little bit in the news about, we're only, 330 million people out of 7 billion. Are we going to get all our people vaccinated before other countries? And that remains to be seen.
You got Dr. Francis Collins, director of the National Institutes of Health, when asked who gets to be first in line for a COVID-19 vaccine, says, not everybody's going to like the answer. There will be many people who feel they should have been at the top of the list and are not.
Oh, I absolutely. That's going to be a battle. In this country, there's a bit of a me-first attitude, so I'm sure it's going to create some problems.
Well, according to her, and of course, her being a doctor, of course, she says the medical community and people on the front line and healthcare workers should go first. But then again, what's she going to say?
Right, absolutely.
Doc, we've seen a rise in cases in rates coming along. I think there's just a semantics debate of whether this is a second wave or not. But we kind of knew numbers were going to pop back up once we started reopening things. Are they popping up faster than we thought, or is this kind of what we had predicted when we reopened?
I'm not sure anybody was able to predict how this was going to go. What I find interesting, which is not surprising, it seems like the rural areas are becoming a little more affected than they had been, and that seems to be a trend across the country. The other thing is we've had these hot spots in Arizona. Obviously, it's been one of them, but I just looked at their trend lines here yesterday, and in the last week, they've started to drop a little bit, which means you kind of have this ebb and flow with the virus, where you get these hot spots, you get outbreaks, and then things slow down a bit. So I think that's kind of what we're going to see all across the country. And the comment yesterday by Dr. Birx was it's everywhere, which again gets back to that idea that we saw the hot spots generally in the urban areas, and things have flared up, and a lot of the rural areas weren't really affected, but now we're seeing it more affecting the rural areas.
About how long, Wisconsin just put a mask mandate in place.
It goes into effect this morning.
Over the weekend here. About how long is it appropriate to take to look at the numbers to see an effect of that? I mean, is 2 weeks out enough time to see if this mask mandate had any effect, positive or negative?
I think 2 weeks you can get some trend lines. You can't really say exactly if it's effective, but I think 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, somewhere in there. I think, again, Arizona is an example where things really peaked, or I should say accelerated here a few weeks ago, and they've been more aggressive about pulling back a little bit on opening things and pushing the mask issue, and they're starting to see things drop a little bit within the past week. So I think that's a reasonable trend line.
And before we let you go, Dr. Norm, one of the things that, of course, has really been percolating, and it seems to, get more up to a fever pitch as each week goes by, the reopening of schools.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure the controversy in Illinois is the same as the controversy here in Arizona. The governor here is really pushing to get schools open, and there's a lot of pushback. My grandson's going into second grade, and his school has been working on criteria as to what to do. Initially, it was going to be a parent choice. You could either have in person or simply online. Well, they pushed back that opening now about 4 weeks because of the recent spike. But the intent is to get kids at least part-time back into the classrooms.
You agree with the part-time idea?
I think any ability to get kids back into a classroom in a traditional setting, if it can be done safely, is a goal. This online learning, especially at the younger grades, just is nearly impossible. Parents are not teachers, unfortunately, and the kids need that socialization. They need to get back into the classrooms.
Well, yeah, and the debate is going to continue to rage on. As I was telling Joe off the air, I forget where the school district was. Part of the union's negotiating tactic was to have teachers send their obituaries to the governor, their pre-written obituaries to the governor, which nothing quite tells people where you stand like that.
Yeah, and I think that's unfortunate. I think there is a way to do it safely. Again, looking at the region, what region the school's in, are things on the upswing in terms of COVID? Are they on the downside? There's got to be ways, to adjust to that. That's what we're doing with other essential services. And I kind of look at schools as an essential service, not something that we can just shut down and say, oh, too bad. Let's wait till this thing's over.
Excellent point. Well, see, and this is why we get together on Mondays. Dr. Norem, we appreciate you taking time out of your day, especially, when you're out there mountain gazing out in Arizona. We don't envy you the heat, but, we envy you the lack of humidity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, looking at the mountains is really tough. It just kind of wears on me.
I bet it does. Dr. Norem, as always, thanks for your time. Look forward to getting together with you again. Hopefully, if you've got time, we'd love to do it again next week.
All right. Well, see you guys next week.